I still remember the exact moment everything shifted when a billionaire, untouchable in his glass tower above Manhattan, pointed at me like I was a joke. I was holding a cleaning cloth, the smell of lemon polish clinging to my hands, when he challenged me to read a contract written in a foreign language. He expected me to freeze. He expected me to shrink. He expected a show one he could laugh at. But instead, he witnessed the truth unravel at his feet, slicing straight through his arrogance. My name is Clara Whitfield, and before that morning, no one in the Harrington building ever bothered to learn it. Till then, I was the cleaning girl, the woman who arrived before sunrise, who pushed a cart through the marble house, who never complained, who never raised her voice. They thought silence meant ignorance, but silence can be armor. Silence can be strategy. Silence can be the last breath before a storm. Logan Harrington, one of the most feared SEALs in New York, never imagined that the girl sweeping outside his office door carried the ghost of a past he never dared to confront in his own life. He saw dust on his table in assumed incompetence. He saw my worn shoes in assumed failure. He saw my small-town accent in assumed limitation. But he didn't see the years of study by candlelight, my father's voice murmuring German conjugations, French idioms, in the soft cadence of Italian poetry. He also didn't see the grief that pushed me from my hometown to this ruthless city. He didn't see the nights I slept in a shelter, the mornings I repeated my father's lessons so you didn't forget the pieces of my old life. Tell Logan, I was invisible until the moment you asked me to. Until the truth rose with a sharpness he couldn't escape. What happened next would not only shatter his pride, but tear open a secret buried deep inside him, one that tied both our paths to the same language, the same loss, in the same painful lesson, the most powerful truths are often spoken quietly, by the people least expected to hold them. New York City has a way of swallowing people whole, especially those who arrive with nothing but hope in their pockets. When I first stepped off the bus from Maplewood Valley, a place where chimney moved slowly in the air smelled like cornfields, I thought I knew hardship. I was wrong. The city tested me from the moment my shoes hit the pavement. Jobs were scarce, rent was unforgiving, and solitude pressed against me like a constant shadow. But I kept going, fueled by the lessons my father had carved into my bones: discipline, humility, a relentless hunger to learn. I found work as a cleaning lady for Harrington Industries, a company so powerful that employees whispered the CEO's name like a warning: Logan Harrington. It didn't fear him. Men like him had never been part of my world. But I understood the type: sharp suits, sharper tongues, a belief that money erected walls higher than morality. What I didn't expect was how our worlds would collide so violently, and how the collision would expose more than just arrogance. Before we dive into this emotional journey filled with humiliation, truth, redemption, and a discovery that changed both our lives, I want to invite you to stay with me until the end. If you enjoy stories that touch the soul and reveal the hidden battles people carry, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment your city entry. I'd love to know where you're watching from. This is not just a story about a billionaire and a cleaning lady. It's a story about the weight of secrets, the sting of pride, and the unexpected power of knowledge. And it all began on the 40th floor, with a single folder written in German, a folder that would humiliate the man who placed it in my hands. The 40th floor always smelled like wells disguised as citrus. Executive assistants hurried through the corridor with tablets pressed to their chests, their polished shoes tapping like nervous metronomes. I pushed my cleaning cart quietly, pretending not to notice how so many of them stacked aside as if humility were contagious. That morning felt heavier than usual. The sky outside was the color of cold steel, and the building moved with anticipation. I didn't know it yet, but Logan Harrington had arrived in one of his moods, the kind that made even directors tremble. I was wiping fingerprints off a glass divider when the elevator jinged. The energy shifted instantly. Conversations cut mid-sentence. A pin dropped. Logan walked out wearing a charcoal suit that seemed tailored to command the air around him. His jaw clenched with irritation as he flipped through a folder, muttering sharp criticisms under his breath. People greeted him with tight smiles. He didn't acknowledge a single one. He moved like a malachi for his own expectations. As he neared the office switch, his eyes landed on me worn sneakers, faded jacket, hair pulled into a simple braid. Something in his expression hardened. It wasn't anger. It was dismissal. The same look wealthy men often give to those who clean their mirrors, a reflection of themselves they'd rather not see. He stopped in front of me, tapping the folder against his palm. "You," he said, as if my name were irrelevant. "Step inside my office now." The assistants looked at me with pity. One of them sadly shook her head, warning me without words. But I followed Logan through the glass doors, my heart pounding. His office was a cathedral of power floor to ceiling windows revealing Manhattan's veins of traffic, a desk carved from imported wood, a wall filled with framed awards. He dropped the folder onto the polished surface and crossed his arms, studying me like a problem he intended to solve through humiliation. "Tell me," he began, "when you clean this office, do you actually look at what you're doing, or do you just wave a class around and hope for the best?" His tone dripped with condescension. I tightened my fingers around the cleaning rack but said nothing. He smirked, mistaking silence for confusion. "Let us try something different today. I want to see how sharp you really are." He slid the folder toward me. "Read the first paragraph, in the original language." I opened it slowly. The words leapt off the page, not in English but in precise, formal German. For a moment, grief pressed against my ribs, the same grief that visited whenever something reminded me of my father. But Logan didn't see that. He thought the foreign letters would paralyze me, make me stutter, make me small. I inhaled, grounding myself in the memory of my father's voice. "Sprich mit Klarheit, Clara. Speak with clarity." I began reading. Fluently, each syllable moved like a steady river, the cadences clean, the translation forming effortlessly in my mind. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't rush. I simply read the paragraph in German and then delivered the English meaning with the precision my father had drilled into me by candlelight in our rural kitchen. When I finished, the room felt strangely hollow. Logan's eyes widened. It was the first crack I had ever seen in his armor. He stepped closer, as if proximity would reveal how I had done it. Where did you learn that?" he asked, his voice stripped of its earlier arrogance. I closed the folder gently. "My father was a linguist. He taught me every evening. German, French, Italian. Languages kept him alive after grief took everything else." Logan's jaw tightened, not with irritation, but with something that looked disturbingly like recognition. "And why," he continued, softer now, "are you cleaning offices in my building instead of working somewhere that pays for the talent you clearly have?" A knot formed in my throat. "Because life doesn't always reward talent," I answered. He died. That followed. Our house slipped through our fingers. I came here with nothing, not even enough money to finish college. Logan looked at the skyline as if searching for something he had buried there long ago. When he finally turned back to me, a shadow had settled over his eyes, old, painful, unspoken. "Clara," he said carefully, "I want you to meet me here tomorrow morning at 6. There is something I need to discuss with you." His voice carried a tone I had never heard before. Not from him, not from anyone in this building. It wasn't a command. It wasn't arrogance. It was a fracture. And fractures always reveal what is hidden beneath the surface. Sleep avoided me that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Logan Harrington's face, not the smack, polished version everyone feared, but the fractured expression he wore after I finished translating the contract, it unsettled me. People like him didn't fracture. They cracked others. They bent rules, controlled outcomes, reshaped consequences. But something had shaken in Theo Decore, something that had nothing to do with me in everything to do with the language I spoke. When dawn finally seeped into my small rented room, I had barely slept an hour. The subway ride to Manhattan felt different that morning. The train screeched through the tunnels, lights flickering, passengers packed tightly together. But the noisy cold didn't drown my thoughts. Why had Logan asked me to come early? Was it another test? A trap? A chance to humiliate me again? I had learned early in life that promises from powerful men could be poisoned. My father used to say that trust was a fragile currency, valuable, but often stolen. As the train surfaced above ground, skyscrapers rose like giants, reminding me just how small I still was. When I arrived at the Harrington building, the lobby was nearly empty. The security guard scanned my intradermica, giving me a puzzled look. "You're here early," he said. "The bosses don't show up for another hour." I forced a polite smile. "I have a meeting." His brows rose slightly, but he said nothing more. The elevator ride felt longer than usual, each floor ticking past like a countdown. By the time the doors opened on the 40th floor, my palms were damp with nerves. Logan's office lights were already on. That alone was unusual. He never arrived before 7. Through the glass panel, I saw him standing by the window, a silhouette carved against the waking city. His shoulders were tense, his hands clasped behind his back. Something had been eating at him long before I stepped into his orbit. He turned when he heard the door open, and for the first time, he looked less like a corporate titan and more like a man bracing for impact. "Sit," he said quietly, gesturing to the chair in front of his desk. There was no sharpness in his tone, no superiority. I sat cautiously. Logan remained by the window for a moment before walking over and placing a different folder on the desk, this one older, edges worn, paper slightly yellowed. He rested his fingers on each as though each were fragile. "Do you recognize this?" he asked. I shook my head. He exhaled slowly. "It belonged to my father." He opened the folder and revealed a page covered in handwritten German notes. My breath caught. The handwriting was neat, intentional, scholarly. "He was a professor," Logan continued, "a linguist. Before he died, he tried teaching me the basics, but I never cared. I thought languages were useless, something soft, something impractical." He paused, his jaw tightening. "The day he died, this was the last thing he ever wrote." He slid the page toward me. "Can you read it?" I hesitated. This was no test. This was something intimate, painful. But Logan's eyes begged for an answer he couldn't give himself. I read the page. The words formed a letter, a message filled with regret, hope, and an apology from a father who had loved his son more deeply than Logan had ever realized. When I finished translating aloud, Logan's eyes softened with a grief he'd held hostage for years. He swallowed hard, unable to speak. The office felt smaller, heavy with ghosts. "My father always said languages were bridges," he whispered. "But I burned every one he tried to build. I buried everything he left behind because it hurt too much to look at." His voice cracked. "Yesterday, when you read that contract, you sounded exactly like him." For a moment, it felt like he was in the room. I felt a sting behind my eyes, not pity, but understanding. Grief recognizes its own reflection. He straightened, wiping a hand over his face. "Clara, I am not a Gitman. I know that. People obey me because they fear the consequences of doing otherwise. If I treated people like they disposable." He looked at me, then really looked at me. "But you forced me to see something I ignored for years. You showed me the one thing money can't buy, humility. I didn't know what to say." Silence settled between us like dust. Finally, Logan pulled out a clean sheet of paper and slid it toward me. I want you to work with me, not for me, as my interpreter, consultant, whatever title you prefer. My heart raced. He wasn't offering charity. He wasn't feeding guilt. He was offering respect, something I had fought for since the day I arrived in New York. But beneath the offer, another question pulsed like a warning. Why me? Why now? What exactly had my voice awakened in me? What truth was still hiding beneath that grief? For the rest of that morning, Logan spoke very little. He sat behind his desk, fingers interlaced, gaze drifting between the letter in the skyline. I stood quietly, unsure whether to accept his offer or step back from the emotional storm unfolding in front of me. I had seen grief before, its weight, its silence, its sharp edges, but grief inside a man like Logan felt different. It wasn't loud. It wasn't messy. It was locked behind years of perfection, productivity, and pressure. And now, the lock had cracked. I need to know something, I finally said. Why me? Logan lifted his eyes slowly, as if returning from somewhere far away. You didn't flinch, he said. I tested you, and you didn't shrink. Everyone in this building bends, Clara. They bend for approval, for survival, for advantage. But you, he paused, searching for the right word. You stayed grounded. You wasn't sure whether to feel flattered or cautious. Men with power often admired resistance only because they didn't know what to do with it. And, he added quietly, you awakened something if spent years buried under work. My father's voice. There it was again, the shadow, the past is still running its claws through him. I'll consider your offer, I replied carefully. I needed the money, yes, but I also needed stability, control, boundaries. And something told me Logan Harrington wasn't a man who kept emotional distance once someone stepped into his inner circle. Consider it soon, he said. Things are shifting inside this company. I need someone I can trust before the wrong people start circling. That sentence chilled me. What do you mean? I asked. Logan's jotting said. There is someone trying to undermine me. Someone inside these walls. He opened a drawer and took out another folder, this one black, unmarked, sealed with a metal clasp. Before my father died, he said, he warned me about a partner he no longer trusted. Someone who had ties to foreign investors in a habit of forging documents. He placed the folder gently between us, as if it contained venom. I dismissed it. I thought he was paranoid. But now, the same investor he warned me about sent that German contract. A knot formed in my stomach. And you think it is fraudulent? Logan nodded. I don't think. I know. He leaned forward. Whoever sent this wants to trap the company legally. A signature on a mistranslated clause could cost billions. And the timing is so perfect. His gaze sharpened. I need someone who understands the language, someone whose loyalty isn't tied to money or corporate politics. I swallowed hard. You don't know me, I pointed out. You don't know my past, my motives. Logan shook his head. I know enough. You didn't try to impress me. You didn't use your skills to demand anything. You walked in it with truth instead of ambition. That's what I need. A silence settled over the room, thick with unspoken possibilities. Outside, the city roared car horns, distant construction, the law of New Yorkers chasing survival. But inside this office, everything felt suspended, fragile, dangerous. Let me ask you something, Logan said suddenly. Your father, why did he raise you with so many languages? Not many people in small towns learn German, French, and Italian. His question reopened a wound I rarely touched. He believed knowledge was a shield, I said softly. He wanted me to have tools he never had growing up. Languages were his way of giving me a world bigger than our town. Logan nodded slowly, absorbing the weight of my words. My father thought the same, he whispered. But instead of learning from him, I rebelled. I thought success came from control, not connection. I was wrong. He looked at the folder again, almost as if it breathed. Clara, I want you to help me expose whoever sent this. I want to understand what they hiding in the language, in the fine print, in the structure. Then he said something I didn't expect. You be the only person I trust to see the truth. His vulnerability both unsettled and inspired me. I had been invisible for so long, scrubbing floors, unnoticed, unheard, that being suddenly thrust into a position of trust felt jarring. Ele look at the documents, I said, but I'm not promising anything else yet. Logan didn't look disappointed. If anything, he looked relieved. Kid, he said, caution means you're rethinking clearly. I need that. He stood, walking toward a locked cabinet built into the wall. There is more. A lot more. He retrieved another set of papers, old, creased, written partly in English and partly in German. These were my father's notes about the investor. He said the manipulated language used mistranslations to bury illegal agreements. I scanned the papers. Instantly, subtle inconsistencies jumped out. Verbs out of order, adjectives placed deliberately in misleading positions, clauses that shifted meaning depending on who translated them. This is intentional, I said quietly. Someone wanted your father confused. Logan exhaled deeply, the truth hitting him like cold water. And then a realization hit me, a chilling one. Logan, I whispered, your father didn't just warn you about a partner. He was documenting a threat. Logan stiffened. A threat to the company. I shook my head. No. A threat to him. Logan's breath faltered. His face paled. In that instant, I understood. The billionaire who mocked me was standing on top of secrets far more dangerous than arrogance, secrets that had been hunting him long before I stepped into his office. Logan didn't move for several seconds. His breath was shallow, almost imperceptible, as if the air itself had turned to ice. The idea that his father had been threatened not just professionally, but personally changed everything. Clara, he murmured finally, his voice stripped of its usual authority. Are you certain? I nodded slowly. The syntax, the tone, the vocabulary choices. Someone used language as a weapon, not to deceive a corporation, to intimidate a man. Logan closed his eyes, pressing his fingertips to his temples. All these years, I thought he was paranoid. I thought grief had made him irrational. He opened his eyes again, and they were darker now, full of a fear far heavier than power could shield. I sifted through the pages again. My heart pounded as I traced the lines with my fingertips. The inconsistencies weren't mistakes, they were signatures. A linguistic fingerprint. Someone with advanced proficiency had crafted sentences meant to confuse a native English speaker who only partially understood German. He was being cornered, I whispered. Whoever wrote these letters knew exactly which linguistic traps to set. Logan's jaw clenched. His business partner, he muttered. It has to be. My father mentioned him in passing years ago, said he was working with investors he didn't trust. Said there were threats hidden inside their correspondence. He inhaled sharply. I didn't listen. Before I could respond, a knock echoed on the glass door. Logan flinched. Instantly, the mask he wore in public fell back into place. Enter, he called, voice firm again. His assistant stepped inside, her expression tense. Say, the board meeting scheduled for next week. Each been moved. They insisted. Logan's eyes narrowed. Insisted. She nodded. They said it was urgent. Some of the partners have concerns. His expression barely changed, but something in the air grew colder. Thank you, he said. She nodded and left, closing the door softly behind her. As soon as she was gone, Logan turned to me. He accelerating their timeline. He spoke like a man piecing together a puzzle he didn't know he'd been solving all along. If this is connected to what my father warned me about, then someone on that board might be working with the same people who pressured him. I swallowed hard. You think he trying to push you out? Logan shook his head slowly. I think they he trying to recreate whatever they did to him. The gravity of his words pressed against my skin like a weight. Clara, he said, stepping closer, you need to understand what you're stepping into. This isn't about translation anymore. This isn't a language test or a corporate dobby. His voice lowered. If my father was threatened because he discovered something, and if I am close to discovering the same thing, then helping me puts you at risk too. I exhaled, steady but firm. I've lived with risk since the day I arrived in New York. Poverty is a threat. Homelessness is a threat. Debt is a threat. At least this time, the danger has a face. Logan stared at me for a long moment before whispering, "You're stronger than anyone it understands." He paced for a moment, restless, pulling at the edges of his cufflinks. "We need to trace whoever crafted these documents. Someone who speaks German fluently. Someone with access to company files. Someone close enough to my father to know his limits." I scanned the notes again, feeling a strange pull and instinct, almost. "This wasn't written by someone trying to from a corporation," I said. "This was written by someone who knew your father personally. Someone who understood the emotional weight of language." Logan froze mid-step. "Emotional weight?" he asked, turning toward me. "Yes," I said. "Look at this phrase." I pointed to a line halfway down the page. "Vertrau nicht denen, já squeezing do not trust those who stay silent." That's not a business warning. That's personal. Someone wanted your father to feel betrayed, afraid, alone. Logan's breath caught. He pressed a hand to the back of his neck, muscles trembling. "My father used to say that exact line," he whispered. "When I was young, when we argued." A chill rippled across my skin. Then whoever wrote this mimicked his voice, to destabilize him. "Clara," Logan said, stepping closer, "how do you know all of this?" His tone wasn't suspicious, it was astonished. I swallowed. "Because when my father was dying, someone did the same thing to him." Logan's eyes widened. My voice trembled despite myself. "He received letters filled with linguistic traps. Messages meant to confuse him emotionally. It happened months before we lost our home. Before he collapsed." Logan stared at me, shaken. "You think the same people targeted your father too?" I hesitated. "I don't know. But the handwriting, the structure, it feels familiar." A storm gathered behind his eyes, not anger, but a realization too big to fully accept. "Then this isn't just my father's past resurfacing," he whispered. "It's yours too." I felt my pulse quicken. "Maybe," I said. Maybe our fathers crossed paths in ways we never knew." Linguists don't often work in isolation. They collaborate. They consult. They translate for the same institutions. Logan ran a hand through his hair. "Clara, if your father and mine were connected, this goes deeper than business corruption." Silence settled between us, thick and electrifying. The city outside glowed with cold sunlight, but inside that office, the air felt sharp with revelation. Logan stepped closer, his voice low. "I need you with me, Clara. Not just for translation but for the truth." As I looked at him, a strange certainty spread through me. Whatever had destroyed our father's lives was rising again, and we were already standing at its center. The hours after our discovery moved strangely, too slow to be ordinary, too fast to feel safe. Logan and I spread the documents across his desk, comparing handwriting, punctuation habits, phrasing patterns. The similarities were unmistakable. Whoever had targeted his father wrote with the same calculated precision I had seen torment mine. The realization tightened something deep inside me, a mix of dread and clarity. Pain leaves traces, and now those traces were forming a single trail. "Clara," Logan said, his voice rough, "if the same person wrote this, then this has been going on for decades." My stomach twisted. "Which means they he not just after money," I whispered. "They he after control." As we sifted through muddy notches, Logan's eyes drifted to a particular symbol scribbled in the margin, a circle intersected by a single diagonal line. This again, he muttered. My father drew this symbol everywhere in his final months. I froze. My heart beat too painfully. Logan, my father drew the same symbol. He looked up sharply. Where? In his notebooks, I replied. On the backs of receipts, on the margin of books. I always thought it was just something he did when he was stressed. Logan leaned in, tracing the shape with his fingertip. This isn't a random. It is a mark, a signature, a warning. His voice lowered. All three. At that moment, Logan's office phone rang, slicing through the tension. He glanced at the screen, frowning. It is a restricted number. He hesitated before answering. Harrington. A pause. A long, cold silence. Then his posture stiffened. What did you say? I watched his face drain of color, his knuckles tightening around the receiver. How did you get this number? Another pause. Then his jaw locked. Don't echo it again. He slammed the phone down, breath shaking. I stepped closer. Logan, what happened? He turned toward me, eyes haunted. Someone said, your father didn't listen. Don't make the same mistake. A chill sliced through me. That exact phrase had been used in one of the letters that followed my father before he collapsed. The tone, the cadence, the cold familiarity. It was identical. They he watching, I whispered. They know you've found something. Logan nodded slowly. And they know you he helping me. For a moment, the room felt smaller, as though the walls were listening. Logan reached for the documents, quickly stacking them. We need to leave. If someone is monitoring my office, staying it makes us vulnerable. We took a service elevator down to the basement, an area used mostly by maintenance staff in delivery crews. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting long shadows on the concrete floor. Where are we going? I asked as we walked briskly toward the parking garage. Somewhere safe, Logan replied. Somewhere no one expects me to go. His voice had regained the edge of command, but beneath each lay a tremor. Grief, anger, fear, they all live inside him now, fighting for dominance. He led me to an old black sedan, not one of the sleek company cars but something discreet, worn, used. Why do you have this? I asked. Because my father used it, he said. He said power draws attention, but humility disappears. He drove in silence for several blocks, weaving through traffic until Manhattan's glittering towers gave way to quieter streets lined with brick buildings in rusted fire escapes. Finally, he parked beside a shut-down bookstore. Eddie, he said softly, this belonged to my father's closest friend. Inside, the air smelled of dust in forgotten stories. Shelves lined the walls, half empty and coated with chimney. Logan moved toward the counter and reached under it, retrieving a small metal key taped beneath the wood. He told me about this place once, Logan murmured. Said it was where he kept the things he didn't trust the company to protect. He unlocked a back room. The hinges groaned, revealing a dim storage space filled with boxes labeled in his father's handwriting. My breath caught. These are his archives. We spent hours opening boxes, scanning through documents, journals, letters, translations, research. And then finally we found it. A folder bound with string, marked only with the symbol we had both recognized. Logan untied it with trembling fingers. Inside were letters, dozens of them written in multiple languages, all sharing the same threatening undertone. German, French, Dutch, even fragments in Czech. But what froze me wasn't the languages. It was a name scribbled at the bottom of one letter, a name I knew too well. My throat tightened. Logan, I whispered, voice barely audible. My father's name is Eddie. Logan's eyes snapped till mine. What? I handed him the letter. Look, his hands shook as he read it. My father's name appeared in a list of individuals consulted for linguistic review. In next to each circled was a notch in German. It was Uville. He knows too much. I swallowed hard. Logan looked at me as if seeing me for the first time. Clara, your father wasn't a collateral damage. His voice trembled. He was involved, and they wanted him silenced. My legs weakened. I steadied myself against a shelf. Then both our fathers were part of something bigger than we ever understood. Logan stepped closer, his voice low and steady. Clara, we're not dealing with business rivals. His eyes were filled with a new kind of fear, one that came from understanding truth, not avoiding it. We're dealing with people who eliminate threats. I met his gaze, breath shallow. Then why didn't they come after us? Logan's jaw tightened. Maybe they didn't know who we were. He looked down at the symbol-marked folder. Or maybe they were waiting. The truth didn't settle quietly. It crashed through us like shattered glass. Logan and I stood surrounded by the remnants of our father's lives, our breaths tangled with dust in revelation. The letters, the symbol, the warnings, their weight pressed against us with the force of years spent in silence. Everything we thought we knew about our past had been rewritten in a single discovery. Our fathers had not just been victims of circumstance, they had been witnesses to something dangerous, something people were still willing to protect with intimidation and manipulation. And now, by uncovering their work, we had stepped into the same line of fire. As we packed the documents, a strange calm settled over Logan. Not resignation, clarity. My father tried to shield me, he said softly. Yes, tried to shield you. But running from this one till Northam, I felt my throat tighten. Then we face it, I said. Together. He nodded, and for the first time, he didn't look like the untouchable billionaire everyone feared. He looked like a man rebuilding himself from the ruins of a truth long buried, a man choosing courage over comfort. We left the bookstore carrying the folder marked with the symbol, our father's final warning, in our first step forward. The city buzzed outside, unaware of the unraveling shadows beneath its towers. But as we stepped into the cold light of afternoon, one truth anchored itself in my mind. The people who destroyed our fathers had survived in silence because no one ever dared to expose them. Now, they would learn silence ends where truth begins.